Politics, episode 14. And I'm Shannon Grady and my co host.
John Cummings, good morning.
Folks, we are here with some earth shaking news. I was myself out of town this past weekend because I had some family issues to take care of. And as I understand it, there were multiple reorganization precinct meetings, if you will, taking place throughout Horry County. And some members of the public attended these meetings, but there were a number of Horry citizens, voters, registered voters, Republicans, who were not only not allowed to attend, but I was told by a credible source, this information came from an elected official, that there was a list of names given to a sheriff's deputy, and the deputy was stationed outside to prevent anyone on that list from entering into the precinct reorganization. Now, understand, I agree if you're being disruptive, if you're threatening violence, if you're doing anything that is inappropriate, you should be asked to leave. But showing up to participate in our democracy, to participate in the process of being involved in the two-party system that we have, and being told you cannot be a participant, flies in the face of everything our Constitution stands for. I understand that this was at the direction of Jerry Rovner, who is the 7th Congressional District Chair for the Republican Party, and obviously at the behest of Drew McKissick, who is the State Party Chair. Folks, this cannot be allowed to stand, because what's next? Are they going to have a list or a loyalty oath that we have to sign before we can go in and vote? Are they going to tell you that the primary election is now by invitation only, and if you're not invited, then you are not allowed to attend? John, what say you?
We are not a nation of lists. The entire system is based on the fact that you're innocent until proven guilty, and the establishment of lists basically puts you in a position where you are guilty and you have to prove yourself to get off the list. It flies in the face of everything that we believe in. And the fact that there were marching orders given, apparently, to sheriff's deputies that they had to enforce this list, as someone who spent some time in law enforcement, 8.5 years up in New York City, I really have a huge problem with that. We do not need law enforcement enforcing unjust and illegal, quote unquote, laws or rules. This list flies in, like I said, flies in the face of everything that we believe in. And if you're using law enforcement as the long arm of the law, if you will, if you're using that illegitimately, I have a massive problem with that.
Yeah, I I predict that this story is going to go national, because when you have names of people singled out to not participate in the process of governing, that is huge. That is problematic. It is. I mean, I don't know how it's not unconstitutional. I really find that hard to believe. I had no intentions of even participating whatsoever, but I may be now forced to attend the April 1st makeup meeting, and I'll have media with me. I'll see if I can't get Fox News and some other folks to come down. I'll contact Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro and Dan Bongino and Glenn. I will contact every major name that I can think of and tell them that this is what's happening, and ask that they send someone to cover this, because if this is what happens, we'll have cameras there. And if they're going to threaten us with arrest for simply trying to practice our constitutional right to participate in the process, then I have major objections to that. And if they're going to arrest people for just simply trying to be active in the Republican Party, that is a slippery slope that I mean, we've had issues. There's no question about it. We've had issues within party politics here in Horry County, as well as across the state. I'm not going to deny that. There are major um, divisions among the various groups. And the only other time that I've seen anybody blocked from attending any kind of a meeting was right after the split occurred. An individual who was elected the state EC for the opposing divided group, if you will, attempted to come and was very loud and boisterous, and was yelling. And another gentleman came in and basically had a similar response. And so they were both told, sorry, guys, you can't come in. We're not going to allow you to come in and be disruptive. And so they were asked to leave. Now, again, they were not there to participate in the process. They were there to be disruptive, and that was very clear because they had already attended this other group and established and claimed themselves to be the county party. So their only purpose for coming to the other county party, if you will, the two different parties, was simply to be disruptors. Um, Having a reorganization should be the time when the table is cleared and everybody has a chance to go and participate. But that's not what happened. As I said, but I personally chose not to be involved because I don't like what I'm seeing in the alleged Republican Party here in South Carolina or in the nation. I'm not happy with Ronna. I'm not happy with Drew McKissick. I think that what he's doing across the board flies in the face of everything our nation stands for. You and I have both discussed the House Bill 4066, which is designed to limit the number of people that can participate in the state convention. Well, if you don't even need to pass that, Drew, because why bother passing a rule that limits it when you can just simply put out list of names of people that can't participate in the process and thereby keeping it small and controlled. Um, I don't understand how this is not. I mean, this is. I honestly, I'm baffled by this approach.
Well, for me, the mindset of the illegitimate group, and that's the group led by Reese Boyd, and they're illegitimate. Sorry, that's just the way it is.
Yep, agreed.
The fact that their mindset is always the focus is always on trying to take back power illegitimately and retain power. When this country, we are at a crossroads. I mean, we could not be, but my opinion, in a worse spot. We haven't been in a worse spot like this since the late 1930s. It's a very similar situation. I'm not going to get into the foreign policy aspects of it, but domestically, economically, foreign policy wise, we are in dire straits as a nation. And this group wants to focus on dividing the Republican Party at this level only so they can maintain power locally. Then they're not interested in we the people. They're not interested in forwarding the interests of we the people. What they are interested in is holding on to power. And that's it. And it's, for me, when I look at them, it's more about notoriety. It's more about notoriety and getting your picture taken with certain people and saying, hey, look, I helped President Trump get elected. But what you did in the process and what you left behind in your wake is catastrophic. It's catastrophic at the local level. And like we said, it undermines everything that you have to believe in constitutionally. And the fact that I cannot tell you, the two things that annoy me most right now are the fact that there is a list. I hope I'm on it, to be
Yep,
honest with you. The fact that there is a list
pretty
and the
sure.
fact that law enforcement is being used to enforce this list. You know what? People need to sit down with the sheriff and say, look, you're not bouncers. You are not bouncers. There is nobody on that list, as far as I know, that has been arrested, has been charged with anything, disorderly conduct, anything like that. They're just on a list because you have a difference of opinion. And that's the scary part. That is the scary part. We should be able to voice our opinions no matter where we are. And the fact that this group wants to
Right.
limit people's participation tells you all you need to know about that group and their illegitimacy.
Yeah, I would agree. I would not go to a meeting. Well, I'm on film. In fact, I went to Columbia to the state EC meeting that they held. I think it was in January. It might have been. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was January. And I went into the room because I was duly elected, as was Roger Schlegel. And of course, they objected to my being there. I was able to talk with Mark Benoit, who is assistant to Drew McKissick, and I was not, you know, is not the things that you would necessarily require someone to be in order to have them removed. But, Mark became belligerent himself. He started yelling and screaming at me. I did not raise my voice and said, you have to leave. You can't be here. This room is in my name. You don't have a right to be here. So because the room was in his name, it didn't matter that it was a public meeting and that it was open to those individuals who were elected by their county representatives. He didn't care about that. So he had a sheriff's deputy come over, and I will say this: the sheriff's deputy came over, and you and I both have law enforcement background, and the first thing he did is yell at me. And I looked at this deputy and I said, "Don't yell at me." And so he kind of took. I think he was a little surprised that I said that. I said, "That's not how you de-escalate." And so he went. I'm sorry, ma'am, would you please leave it? I said, absolutely. You don't have to
Right.
yell at somebody. You don't make matters worse. But I agree with you. Everything you said is 100% accurate. The idea that a sheriff's deputy would be there is not strange. Because if you're expecting some sort of trouble or ruckus or whatever, you want someone there who, if that happens, he can step in or she can step in and say, okay, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're causing a disruption. Totally fine with that. No issue with that whatsoever. But that's not what we had. What we had was a sheriff's deputy standing there essentially with a list of names. And as you walked up, if you were on that list, you couldn't even get in. Didn't matter how nice you were, didn't matter whether you came with good intentions or not. You were prohibited from participating in the political process in a republic, a constitutional republic, which is what we had, and they were prohibited from participating in that process. How
It's,
is that legal?
and I, not to make this about me, but I am probably the least confrontational person you'll ever meet. I mean, I ran for office in New York against Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and never once did I get personal with her. The only time it ever seemed kind of personal was in one of our videos, and in our commercial, we basically said that she makes herself out to be Jenny from the block, and she can't find the block. But that was just a shot at her having not really lived in the area. But
Right,
I never got personal, so I wasn't even confrontational in a campaign.
right.
And this group, they just seem to seek confrontation. They want to set up confrontation because they want you to take the bait. And you know what? That's right out of the Democrat playbook. And shame on them. Shame on all of them. But all because they want power and prestige and whatever they think. Oh, I got my picture taken. Big deal. If I
Yeah,
showed you the list of the famous people that I knew, you say, "What are you doing here?" It's irrelevant who you get your picture taken with. It's all
right.
about power and prestige and whatever money comes with it. If you can grab onto that, great. But
Yeah,
to exclude people because you got to sit down and make a list, just it that's the thing that really grabs me about this group. And all the names, everybody knows who they are, and it's just disgraceful. And if any of them would like to talk to me, hey, call me on the phone, meet me for coffee. I don't care. I think what you're doing is despicable. And the further this goes, the more quote unquote support they'll lose. And they're starting.
absolutely. I
I've seen
agree.
some people on social media that they're
Yep.
starting to single out that are like, "Hey, wait a minute, why am I a persona non grata now?" And the reason
Yep.
you're persona non grata is because you talk to the wrong person.
Right. And John, I know that personally because I have a young lady who's a good friend of mine, and she helps me out occasionally when I have to go pick up my son from school. She'll come cover the store for me, and she was told to stop coming and helping me because I'm like you said, I'm a bad evil person apparently to these people. But it's odd to me that just 2 years ago when I was the president of the women's club, I took over the group and we probably had, I don't know, maybe 45 people attending, 30 to 50 people attending regularly. And at one point we had as many as 250 members of the Republican Women's Club here in Horry County. So we were actually very successful in what we we're doing. But what we now see is that these folks are bitter and they don't like if you don't have their vision, or if you don't actually, they don't have a vision. It is exactly what you said. It's all about who they can have their picture taken with. It's power for the sake of power. I'm not ashamed to hold back any names. There are, Reese Boyd is the guy who is at the head of this clan of I don't even know what to call them. Despots. I mean, there's a bunch of them that feel like they have some sort of power, innate power, where they can just arbitrarily say, "I'm sorry," and away, and thumbs down to you. I don't understand that at all. And as you said, they're not. This used to be the party that was supposed to be the Big Tent. As many people as we could get to attract into the Republican Party, we wanted. And if you remember back when the Tea Party kind of took over, that was the first opportunity that I think real conservatives had to demonstrate our influence within the Republican Party. And I think it scared the bejesus out of them. And so they really quickly started working to suppress that kind of groundswell, that sort of grassroots efforts. And I think you probably also remember that the Democrats called us astroturf. It wasn't grassroots. They said we were astroturf. And it was simply that we had taken a model that the Democrats have used now for a couple of decades. and we used it ourselves, but not in the same manner in terms of some of the dirty and underhanded things they did. We just got our voices together and said enough. It's the same thing that happened in Virginia with the parents who said we're not going to allow you to indoctrinate our children anymore. So they stood up, and that's how they ended up getting a Republican governor elected. And they pushed back, and their pushback is continuing, not just in Virginia, but it's happening here. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. This type of atmosphere is so toxic that you are not. It kind of likens to one of those tribes that you'd find that's isolated and they don't have any outside influence whatsoever. So what happens is they start inbreeding, for lack of a better way to put it, and they have birth defects and everything else because their gene pool is so small. They're not able to sufficiently weed out some of the birth defects. And so, I mean, there's entire villages with kids with cleft palates and other things that are genetic. And so that's what's happening here, is that we've got this little tiny gene pool that is basically becoming corroded. And because they won't let anybody else in, they won't let any differing opinions into the room, they're contaminating their gene pool to the point that it will soon be unrecognizable.
Yeah, and the larger point, and you talked about this, is that this is a national problem, and it comes
Yes.
right from the top. Ronna McDaniel has basically put out that idea of a pledge when it comes
Yes.
to the presidential debate, when it comes to the primaries, et cetera. So there's a pledge at that level. And then Chairman McKissick has done the same thing here, and they introduced legislation to try to limit the amount of people that can participate. And
Yep.
of course, they have basically eliminated or try to eliminate the voice of the Freedom Caucus at the local level. They certainly try to do it at the national level. And then you're down here in Horry County. I mean,
Yep.
it's a top down operation. And all it is, once again, is the national party is basically afraid of we the people. I know
Yes.
they use that term, the swamp and everything. I never like that term because I like swamps. Swamps are good for they're good. They serve a great purpose for the environment. Well, let's face it, swamps are great. What this is a cesspool.
Yes.
This is a cesspool, and swamp is too cute. It's too cute. I'm sorry. This is
Yep.
way worse than any swamp you'll ever visit.
Yes.
It's a toxic swamp, is what it is, and nothing good is going to come out of it. And until people realize that it's not about them, that's the other part about this that really irks me, is that this group of people, they view this as being about them as individuals
Hmm.
and as a group. It's about us. It's not about
Yes.
you. All right. First of all, if you're running around citing passages from the Bible and then you're going out doing all of these things, uh, there's nothing more irritating than that. And you're basically the biggest hypocrites in the world because you are trying to put the focus on you when it's not about you. All right. Stars, we all know who this is about, right? God
Yes.
controls it, and we're just along for the ride. And if
Right.
you can't see that and you think that trying to eliminate the rights of others to participate, well, then you're playing God, and shame on you.
Yeah, I agree with you that one of the things that we definitely should do, and this should probably happen today. I may find myself down at Sheriff Thompson's office sometime today, asking that very question that you brought up, sir. How can you allow your deputies to be used, as you noted, as bar bouncers or as bouncers? I mean, this harkens back to, and I hate to do this, but they've accused us of being Bolsheviks, brown shirts, and so on and so forth. Wow. I mean, really. This is sad. I mean, it's beyond sad. It's disgusting. And I actually had Jerry Robner's wife reach out to me and tried to, I don't know whether she was trying to negotiate with me or what. And my response back to her was, I said, I'm sorry, but your husband, Jerry, has said he is going to prohibit people from attending the reorg process. I said, how is that constitutional? How is that the right thing to do? And she said, well, I disagree with him on that. And I'm thinking, well, even his wife alleges to disagree with him, but he went ahead and did it anyway. Now, he is a former captain in the United States Navy. I don't know what he was the captain of. He must have been the captain of a tugboat, because he does not exhibit leadership that I experienced when I was in the United States Navy, and he has brought shame and dishonor to his title. So I'm appalled at what he's done. This is not communism. You should not be telling people they can't participate in the process. We should be welcoming more people. And as you said, I think this is so critical. when they start stifling your speech because you don't agree with them, that is a banana republic in the making. We want to have discourse. I don't want everybody to agree with me because I think sometimes I probably am not right. I'm not probably, I know I'm not right. And it takes somebody else who says, Shannon, what about this? For me to look at that other direction and go, oh, wow, I didn't think of that. Great point. You have to be willing to admit your mistakes. And I have made many mistakes, and I've never said that I haven't made mistakes. But if you're going to create a what's it called when you just have one voice coming in and nothing else, that's an echo chamber. That is not going to improve our situation. So I don't know what possible justification the sheriff could have for allowing this to take place. But I will certainly agree with you that that is something that we need to sit down and to his credit, I'm not, listen, I have not spoken to the sheriff, so I don't know. Maybe he was not aware. Maybe this deputy was asked to come and stand as security. And then once the sheriff's deputy got there, perhaps then they handed him the list and said, these people are not allowed in. I don't know. So I don't want to say that Sheriff Thompson was aware of his officers being used as bouncers at a public political event that's supposed to be inclusive of everyone. So please understand, I'm not saying Sheriff Thompson agreed to this, but we will find out. We will get to the bottom of this. And I'm very, very certain that if he finds out that his deputies were given a list, if he was okay with that, we have a major problem with our sheriff here in Horry County. But my suspicion is he will be unaware that that happened, and he will certainly take measures to make sure that does not occur again.
Yeah,
So
and I understand, when it comes to Mr. Rovner, I understand that he's the congressional rep. I get it, for the
right,
seventh district, but he's a Georgetown County guy.
right,
So why is he so wrapped up in the Horry County reorg? I mean, I understand you can certainly have a role, maybe if you want to help out or whatever, but to issue an edict and say, hey, look, and go out publicly and say, you try to come here, we're going to keep you out. All right. You know what my answer is? Go back to Georgetown County and enforce that.
yeah,
Don't do it here in Horry. All right.
yeah,
Don't do it, because we've had about enough. All right. We've had about enough of this, and I think we all know that this can go a lot further. And if the national media, and I know it's going to happen, the national media is coming in here already. There's a lot going on here. You saw the article in the Epic Times about
yes,
the after school reading
CRT.
club. I mean,
Yep.
this South Carolina is got the big bullseye on it right now, and people are
Mhm.
just looking for national stories to come out of here. So watch out what you pray for, folks, because I'm telling you, it's coming, and it's not going to get any better.
No.
And let's face it, you're the cause. You are the cause.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, John, you don't want to be on the wrong side of this when the spotlight hits you because, the old expression is the best thing to out darkness is light. And so when that national spotlight comes, and you're absolutely right, it is coming. There is a national spotlight coming. In fact, we're going to talk a little bit later on about the Epoch Times story because I'm a little disappointed in Chairman David Cox, who's the chairman of the school board, because as I understand it, David Warner, who is the president of Moms for Liberty, stood at one of their meetings and discussed CRT and discussed this story about the reading program that prohibited any kids other than minorities from participating. There was a young boy who had some reading difficulties, found out there was a program for after school that allowed tutoring for behind readers, if you will, and was told he could not attend because he was white. Now, folks, that's appalling. Imagine if the reverse had happened and a minority child had arrived and they'd have said, "Oh, hey, yeah, I'm sorry, you can't attend because you're black or you're Asian or you're Hispanic." I mean, people would be up in arms. So we can't start having this race-based atmosphere in our schools. But we have problems everywhere. So, as I understand it, anyway, Mr. Warner went and spoke about the CRT that he had found. This is at St. James Elementary School, and he was allowed to speak. But normally, within a week after they have those meetings, that video is then released to the public to be able to be viewed in the event that you were not able to attend. Well, lo and behold, that video has not been shared. They are suppressing that information. They don't want people to know about it. And I saw that our own Congressman Russell Fry did share that story and said, "Look, here's the story that we need to make sure this stops happening." And then he was attacked. You need to read the story. The guy in this story has a tendency to exaggerate or tell lie. Let's just call it what it was. But in this instance, David was not lying. I looked into it myself. It's absolutely accurate. There was, in fact, or is, in fact, a reading program designed for minority students only. If you are Caucasian, you cannot participate. Folks, I have a major problem with my tax dollars paying for any kind of program that prohibits anyone. I don't care what color you are, what race, what ethnic background, what gender, what sexual, whatever. You cannot be prohibited from participating in the education process. If your child is in the school, they should have equal access to all resources available to students at that particular school. I just don't understand how in the world something like that could even exist in our schools, that you would tell a child, hey, I'm sorry, I understand your son's got reading difficulties, but unfortunately your child's white, so he's not eligible for these benefits. What does that say about our schools here in Ori, if not only one, that happens, two, the school board has said, well, they don't have any control over that. That would be the superintendent's all they can control. So then fire the superintendent if he or she is not willing to step in and go talk to the administrators of that school and say, this must cease. You must open this program to all students, not limit it to just students of color.
Yeah, and I guess again, the greater question is, how does this continue to happen in a state that is allegedly red, and in a county that is even more red than the state? So how do we continually end up with these issues? And it's simply because the people that serve us and that represent us basically are not who they say they are. They are part of the establishment. They are not America First people. They are not conservatives. They certainly look to big government all the time to be the answer, when big government is almost always the problem. And therein
Right.
lies the issue once again. We are getting attention that we simply do not need. But guess what? The people that are running the show here, well, they deserve to get that type of attention.
They
But
absolutely do.
we the people don't deserve it.
I want to give a shout out right now. We have the host for the program, I'm Fired Up. He's a national guy. Chad Caton's on. Thanks, Chad, for watching. I appreciate you joining in. And he said he agrees 1,000%. The national coverage is coming. And I hope, I don't know, Chad, if you caught what we said earlier, that perhaps we all need to show up on April 1st to the reorg makeup meeting to see if, in fact, they're going to hold that list up, because I know my name is on the list. So, Chad, you can count your lucky stars. You're on that list too, as well as Elizabeth. And John, I suspect that your name is probably on there as well, because you and I
Gee,
do
well,
the show together.
I would hate to be left out.
Right. So, I mean, there is a list out there, folks, prohibiting people from participating in the process of political activism. I mean, I thought the Republican Party wanted everybody to come and join, but now it's like, nope, sorry. Yeah, Elizabeth, you're on the list. I mean, I think I always understood that lists were supposed to be like VIP lists. Like, okay, you got to the head of the line because you were somebody of importance. I didn't realize they had lists now that said, sorry, you're the wrong kind of Republican. We don't want you. You're one of those ugly MAGA Republicans, and we don't want you. You got to go sit back down. You're not allowed to participate. I suspect that President Trump would be appalled to find out. Yes, the sheriff, I don't know that he had the list, but his sheriff's deputy had a list of names. We're being asked questions in the chat box, guys, and so Chad has asked. There's a list. Yes, the sheriff's deputy had a list of names given to him. I'm assuming by members of the Boyd group. Russell, not Boyd, Reese
Yeah,
Boyd.
Reese Boyd.
And I think Jerry Rovner also was actively involved in this. And I have a witness, and this person that contacted me is an elected official who told me that they personally saw the list, saw my name in particular on that list, and called me and said, what the hell is going on that you're on a list prohibiting you from participating in the Republican primary? Now, again, I was out of town, so I wasn't able to actually be there, and didn't have any intentions of being there at any rate, because I don't think that's legitimate. I know that is not the legitimate Republican Party. That is an illegitimate group holding reorganization without the authority to do so. And then to find out that my name was on the list along with many, many others, to say you cannot participate in this process. And as I said earlier, folks, Absolutely, I agree with you. We're thinking the same thing. Maybe we should all have a meeting with the sheriff and say, "Sir, were you aware of this?" And I said earlier, Chad, that perhaps he was not aware, and that his deputy was just handed a list when he got there, working security. And I noted again, I repeat it, folks. I have no issue with a sheriff's deputy being there, because if they suspected or were afraid there was going to be some sort of violence or whatever, fine, have security there. But you should not have a list given to you of names of people who cannot participate in the process. So that was deeply concerning. And if the sheriff was unaware, he needs to be made aware. But if he knew, then that is, as John, as you said it, that is, oh my God, that is apt. If that's not national news, folks, nothing else.
Yeah.
The Murdoch case was a national news. If that isn't national news, that a sheriff,
And
a
if there
duly elected sheriff, had a list.
if
Go ahead,
there's
John.
two words you should never see in a representative democracy, you should never see them together, is government list. Period. I mean, I was pretty unpopular after 9/11 when, I mean, I spoke out even in my classes because the students asked me about the no-fly list. I mean, there were thousands and tens of thousands of Americans who ended up on a list and couldn't fly because they had certain names. I mean, that's not what we need. All right, that's not what we need. You want to do security, great, do security, but don't put people on a list because of their names or the way they look. I mean, like I said, that flies in the face of everything that we believe in. And the fact that there was a list and the fact that it may have been enforced by local law enforcement, well, that's something that we have to get to the bottom of.
I'm, when I got the phone call, it was late last night that I got the phone call, because, as I said, I'd been out of town. I got back, and this individual was telling me this, and they were very upset, very, very upset. And kept reiterating that, hey, look, I am a, elected official, so I'm trying to stay out of this, but I'm willing to get involved to some degree, because this is not right. This is not legal. This is not constitutional. This is not how a republic is supposed to work. And that, as you noted in the beginning, that someone would be so power hungry that they would go out of their way to make a list to limit your right. And as I said earlier, guys, what's next? Are we going to start getting invitations to vote in the Republican primaries? And if you walk to the door and you don't have your little invitation that was mailed to you, sorry, you can't come in. You're not allowed to vote. Is that the party that we are now representing? I'm almost ashamed to say I'm a Republican if that's what we've become. If our Republican Party is now going to be by invitation only, I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah,
That's
and
not
I
what I
guess
stand for.
no, and I guess the buried lead in all of this is that you mentioned that they're having like a do-over on April 1st. Now, that tells me that people didn't participate, and there's got to be a reason that people didn't participate. Last time, 2 years ago, the participation level was extremely high. So what they've done is they've created this very, very small group, and it's exclusionary, and they paid the price. And the fact that they're going to have their redo on April Fool's Day is quite ironic.
Well, it is. It is. It is ironic that they're doing their makeup. And you know what
On
I
April
thought
Fool's Day,
of?
right?
Yeah, yeah. All right, please tell us. Alex is in the chat, and he says he knows why. But you know what I think the Republican Party is? We're a country club. It's a country club, and it is only for the elite. And if you are not an elite, you can't be in the country club, quote unquote, Republican Party. Um, it is disgusting. The fact that they are not embracing more people. When I was the president over at the Horry County Republican Women's Club, I had really close communications with several Democratic ladies, minority ladies, and they were this close to coming and joining us, because here's the facts: most minorities actually are more conservative than our Caucasian folks. Okay, they don't believe in all this nonsense about transgenders being able to sexually trans a child, to chemically or surgically chemistrate children under the age of 18, certainly not kids 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. They are opposed to that. They do not agree with that. They are typically strong evangelicals. They have a very strong faith base, and they believe that we need to secure our border, because they understand the more people that come across that border, the more difficult it is for them to be able to get the benefits that they need to help sustain their families. So That was what I was trying to do. I was trying to reach out to minority groups. I was trying to include more people in the Republican Party process. And now we have a complete reversal, and they're building a little wall around the Republican enclave, the little country club. And you've got the president of the country club here in the state of South Carolina is Drew McKissick. And he has basically put out this dictate that says, you better abide by the rules or you're out. If you don't show up with your jacket on and your tie, you're not in this country club. And unfortunately, John, I don't wear ties. And I don't know that a lot of other folks that want to participate, a lot of other MAGA Americans want to participate in a suit and tie type event. We're not country club peoples. We're just country. I'm just a good old country girl. I'm from right here in South Carolina. I grew up in a little small town called Clover. And so I don't want to be in a country club. I'm just from the country, and that's what I'm happy to be a part of. Now, I'm not a dummy. Or as Chad said, the khaki mafia. I'm not an idiot. I have all the degrees, but I don't brag about all the degrees. I don't go around here requiring people to call me Dr. Grady. But the fact of the matter is, they treat us like we're peons, like we are insignificant, that we don't have value, that our opinions do not matter. And so, to use Chad's show, I'm a little fired up. Last night, again, if they hadn't have created this list, John, I'd have no interest whatsoever in participating in anything this fraudulent organization is putting forward. But the fact that they have created a list and put my name on that list, the last time I was told that my name was on a list, I was told my name was on a January 6th insurgents list. And I thought, wow, okay. I keep waiting for the FBI to knock on my door, but I didn't go into the Capitol. I didn't trespass. I didn't do any of those things. I didn't bust out windows or attack officers or anything else. But and that's bad enough. We all know who was behind that list. But to find out that so-called Republicans and a person who wore the uniform, the United States Navy uniform, was behind saying that they were going to prohibit me and others from attending a meeting, sir, you bring utter shame to the uniform of a United States sailor, and you disgust me. And if there's any way that I can have your rights and your retirement revoked because you are trying to use your position to block people, I would do it. You make me sick.
And I really like the country club comparison, because I think we've all seen Caddyshack, right? And
Yes.
this other Republican group, they're let's face it, they're Ted Knight. That's who they are. And we're more the groundskeepers. I don't think we're quite Bill Murray, but that's, I'm a lot closer to that than I am to the country club elite. I mean, I'm just a working guy. That's who I am. Like I know Steve Bannon likes to call us grundoons. I totally get that, and I'm fine with that. But this grundoon wants to participate, and
Yes.
this grundoon, put it all on the line up in New York to participate, because I just thought it was needed, and we need more people who are sitting on their couches and who are sitting behind their computers. We need more people to step up so we can get rid of this group once and for all. And I mean, get rid of them, because they
Yes.
are harmful. They are harmful to the process. And once you start stepping on my rights, I'm coming after you. It's as simple as that. I'll take a lot of stuff. I mean, like I said, I'm not a confrontational person. But if you're going to come after my right to participate and you're going to try to squash my voice in the process, well, guess what? I'm not sitting still for it. And there's going to be a lot more people coming and following us than there are you. So better wake up and get used to it.
Yeah, buckle up, Buttercup, because we're coming for you. Again, I just want to reiterate. So I had no intention, zero intention of doing anything with this fake group. But now that you've put out a list and you're going to try to have me arrested, oh, I hope to God you have me arrested for simply showing up, because you will rue the day. I will sue the living crap out of you. And it will be to my great pleasure to add Drew McKissick's name to that list, to add Jerry Rovner's name to that list, to add Reese Boyd's name to that list, and anybody else who is there trying to block us from simply participating in the political agenda. I promise you. I relish the opportunity. So April 1 is going to be a showdown as far as I'm concerned, because I just want to see if this list is going to be used again. Now, I may not do anything more than walk in the room and turn and walk back out. I don't have any intentions of participating in your ludicrous process. But if you're going to tell me I can't even walk into the room, therein lies the problem. As John said, now you're trampling on my rights as a citizen of the United States, as a citizen of South Carolina, and as a citizen of Horry County. And I'm not going to stand for that either. I agree. There's some folks that were talking about being a class action suit. 100%. I agree with Elizabeth as well. If you're going to arrest us all, we're going to have some cameras there. We'll make sure this goes national, that you're arresting people for simply wanting to participate. I mean, I'm all for, let's just go into the room and sit down, and they got to drag us out, because I'm for that. I'll sit down. You want to arrest me and drag me out of the room simply because I want to participate in the process? So be it. We'll start having the old time, they used to do the sit-ins when they were protesting in the civil rights movement. If that's what they want to do, if we want to get 50 or 75 people to walk into that room and sit down and you want to arrest us, we'll make sure we all have our bail money lined up, and so be it. I have no problem with that whatsoever. If the sheriff wants to start arresting people for simply participating in the process, then sheriff, your time here is going to be shortened, and we will see if we can't replace you with someone else who actually upholds the Constitution. But again, I do not know that Sheriff Thompson was aware that his deputy was given this list. So I do want to give him the opportunity to either defend or to simply say that did not come to my attention and I am not happy with it. And I really hope and pray that that is the response we get from the sheriff, that he was unaware that his deputy was given any sort of list. But the deputy himself, I mean, John, if you were a deputy, back when you were a deputy, if somebody had handed you a list and said, these folks can't come in and participate in the Republican reorganization, what would your response have been?
I would have asked where the list was generated. Where did the list come from? And why are these people on a list? They haven't committed a crime. If you haven't committed a crime, there's no list. All right. If you're in law enforcement, there's no list. We say, well, we think these people might. I don't get. We think doesn't cut it for me. All right. If there's no probable cause, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. So take your list, and if there's a problem here, I will handle the problem. If it's a legal problem, if it's just the fact that you're handing me a list because you don't like these people, well, here's your list back. I don't really need it. Thank you very much, and have a good day. As for the people who continue to ally themselves with this other group, I have a word for you. Just some advice. These people will throw you under the bus in 2 seconds. Once they believe that you're expendable, you're done. You're done. They will throw you out so fast to make your head spin. So you know what?
Absolutely.
Leave the dark side and come over before it's too late. Because like you said, Shannon, once the daylight gets on all of this nationally as the biggest disinfectant,
Yes.
you don't want to be on the wrong side of the post.
Well, you know what's really interesting is, let's talk about throwing people under the bus. I'm just going to tell you, folks. Drew McKissick asked me directly. He wanted me to run for chair of Horry County, and he said that Reese lacked the spine to be able to hold the position. And so Jerry McDaniel told me that this was some time back. She said maybe you should run for the 7th congressional Republican chair seat, which is currently held by Jerry Rovner, because she was not very impressed with Jerry Rovner. She didn't particularly care for the way he ran things. And so dear old Jerry is out there putting his neck on the line, thinking that he's doing something that is so wonderful. But Jerry, I promise you, buddy, that they're going to throw all of this on you, because you're the guy that's on video saying that you are going to prevent anybody from attending these rallies. I mean, excuse me, attending these reorganizations. And so you watch when we show up on the 1st and we get thrown out and the national media gets there, buddy, your name is going to be thrown. It was all Jerry Rovner. We didn't have anything to do with it. So you better buckle up, Buttercup, because they're going to abandon you quicker than, the captain that let that one ship go down, and he left before anybody else even got off the boat. So the captain goes down with the ship, Jerry, and stand by, partner, because you're about to go down with the Titanic, and it is going to be all your fault. You will own it.
It's my point exactly. I would watch. I would watch that group. I would watch your back. And you know what? The one thing is that, the way things are going, they're probably going to need a bigger bus.
Yeah, they're gonna need more like a train to keep running over all these people that they're gonna be throwing off left and right. My prediction is, actually, I'm astounded that Reese, as an attorney, Reese Boyd Esquire, as Chad likes to call him, I think it fits, Reese Boyd Esquire. I'm astounded that he has stayed in this as long as he has, because he had political aspirations. He had dreams of being a state senator, and his dreams have all been flushed down the toilet. Because, sir, I promise you, I will personally knock on every door to tell folks what you've done. If you think you're going to run for office and that folks aren't going to be made aware of just how awful you are and what you've stood with and for, you are sadly mistaken. Thank you. And there's multiple people saying, Kim's agreeing with me. She's right there with me. I know AJ is. I know Elizabeth is. I know Chad. I know Peggy. All of these folks are not going to just stand idly by and watch you pronounce how wonderful you are and how conservative you are when you've done everything in your power to destroy the conservative viewpoints of anybody that opposed your viewpoint. Going so far as to say that, listen, I want to go after these guys because of what they did to me at the reorg at the county convention. And Reese has yet to tell me, John, what it is they did to him. Now, listen, I fully admitted I was part of the Pirates. I was there. I was on the inside, and even I didn't know what it was that was done to Reese, other than his tail was handed to him. I mean, he got fairly thumped pretty good, and he was defeated by a guy who was a complete unknown. So, Reese, if you can get knocked out by a complete unknown, what makes you think you can take on any named politician in Horry County and beat him? If you think Stephen Goldfinch gave you a drubbing last time, boy, you ain't seen nothing yet. I mean, you shouldn't even bother to put your name out there. You won't get more than the 5 votes that comes from you and your family members. In fact, actually be one less now because you have one less family member. So I don't understand at all what he's doing, because he has basically committed ultimate political suicide. He won't be elected dog catcher. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see the place where he works right now suddenly become Davis Law Firm, and there's no Boyd. Because right now it's Davis and Boyd. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Mr. Davis didn't say, Mr. Boyd, I don't want to work with you anymore because you've brought some really bad negative national attention to this law firm, and you're out of here, pal. So, I mean, he needs to really consider what he's doing. And I'm absolutely, I'm like you, John. The more I think about this, the more I think about the fact that for absolutely no reason other than what you said, they just don't like us. They created a list and gave it to a sheriff's deputy to make sure we didn't participate. Now I understand we had someone actually accused of assault, uh, and from what I understand, I'll wait until he tells me it's okay to say his name. This gentleman simply appeared at the reorganization and was confronted by, I believe the young lady was Kelly LaPietra, confronted him and said, "You can't be here." And the sheriff's deputy, I don't know if the sheriff's deputy was there at that moment or whether he was called in at a later time. I'm not sure. I wasn't there. I haven't even had a chance to see the video because, as I said, I was out of town this weekend helping out with family issues. But as I understand it, he didn't at any time make any sort of threatening. He didn't push anybody. He didn't threaten anybody verbally. He didn't do anything physical. But after the fact, as I understand it, this gentleman was accused of assault. Um, I'm assuming it had to be simple assault because you can't just accuse somebody of assault and they didn't touch you, or they didn't, if he had a bat and he was threatening to hit somebody. I mean, I don't know what, John. How do you get charged somebody with assault when all they're using is their words?
Yeah, and hopefully, I mean, I don't know if this is the case. I don't know if there was a police report filed or if they just went on social media and said they filed a report. But either way, I think it's quite obvious that none of that took place. And
Yeah,
I guess the most disturbing thing about all of this is that it's just a microcosm of what's going on in the Republican Party around the country. And the higher ups, the oligarchs, the country club Republicans, whatever you want to call them, they simply do not want to recognize the direction that the party's going. They don't,
yeah,
and because
absolutely.
they'll lose all of their power. And I just, it's mind-boggling, especially coming from where I came from. I hate keep harking back to this, but when you come from a place that is 8-1 Democrat Republican, and then you come down here to a county that President Trump got almost 70% of the vote, and
Correct.
to see the discord and the tactics that will be used to keep you from voicing your opinion is just, it's beyond the pale. I would have never believed it, and I'm kind of glad when I got down here that I took my time,
Yeah.
because this story. I
Yep.
wasn't here 2 days, and I got contacted to run for the seat in 7.
Right.
And I said, you know what, let me feel my way around. And then I kind of got, people wanted me to run for the seat here in 106. I said, you know what, I don't really know enough about what's going on yet. And I'm glad I'm not a person that just jumps in like that. I have to pick my spot. Boy, I'm glad I didn't jump in the pool because I probably would have jumped in and there was no water.
Well, so AJ Baker is a gentleman who showed up and was accused of assault. Now, he says he was there for about 30 seconds, that he was screamed at by, I think it was Kelly LaPietra, screamed at him, told him to, forcefully said, get out of here. And he left. That was it. He unfortunately didn't get his phone to record it. He was able to take a couple photos, but he was only there about 30 seconds. He left. And then, of course, after he left, I think it's alleged that he was charged with assault. Now, AJ, I don't know if they actually did the police come to your house and press charges against you. I'm not sure what exactly. Again, as John said, I don't know if that was just they threatened to have you charged with assault or they actually took it. Yeah, and Kelly LaPietra is absolutely a member of the Jerry Mafia. And I've heard multiple people tell me that she has a very filthy mouth and that she uses profanity in everyday jargon. And so, of course, I'm not at all surprised that she cursed at you, AJ, because I think that's just part of her persona. And oh, for your side, she said it was a possible incident. No charges, but the officer. So he didn't have any charges pressed, but an officer did call. So she did at least try to get charges brought, which is pretty sad. And I agree, Elizabeth. If she was trying to make a false police report, there should be charges made. And listen, we may all be pressing charges. I honestly, I really believe we should all show up on the 1st of April, not because we want to participate necessarily in the process. Let's just see if they let us in the room. If they let me in the room, I'll walk in and turn around and walk out. I have no desire to participate in their phony reorganization, but I would be very curious to see if they're blocking citizens from participating in a open public forum of political process. If that's what they're doing, then I agree, guys. We should all show up. We should have the cameras rolling, and let's see what kind of national media we can get. Because I have no problem with going in there and sitting down on the floor and saying, I just want to observe what you're doing. And then if they want to drag me out in handcuffs, wow, that'll look good for the camera. So let's go. Let's do that. Let's absolutely do that. I have no problem with that because I'm willing to go to jail if it means I'm helping to stand up for the rights of other citizens. I have no problem doing that. That is disgusting. So,
Yeah, and just one more point to the other group. There is nothing that the mainstream complicit media likes more than watching the Republican Party battle itself. There's nothing they like more. And the mainstream media knows that the groundswell of support is with us. Yet they will always show the other side in a favorable light because that's the uniparty. It's what it is. And that helps their cause. We, the people, the America First people, we certainly don't help their cause. Far
right.
from it. We're the antithesis of what they want. So keep fighting, keep fighting that way because eventually you're going to get exposed and you're going to lose. And we, the people, will again uh, take back the power in this party because that's how this party started. So we might as well stick with
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, so folks, stay tuned because I am fairly confident. I might be speaking out of turn here, but I suspect that there will be more of this list story with the sheriff coming up probably later this evening with I'm Fired Up. Again, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I have a feeling that Mr. Chad Caton is not going to let this go if he finds out that, as I did, that he and his wife and several others, myself and probably you as well, John, were put on a
Well, I hope
list
so.
and handed to a deputy. So I would imagine that once he's had an opportunity to speak with Sheriff Thompson, that there will be another video made to discuss this. So, and I'd be curious to know. I mean, I want to know exactly who handed the guy the list because I can tell you unequivocally there was a list with names on it. Because again, as I noted, this elected official called me and said my name was on the list, and they wanted to know what in the hell was going on that my name was on the list prohibiting me from participating in the Republican Party reorganization. And I said, look, I didn't go. I was unaware there was such a list. So I know that the list existed. I know that the sheriff's deputy that was at that particular meeting had that list. I do not know, however, if the sheriff was aware that that was given to his officer. So that's what we don't know. So again, I don't want to have people, being angry with the sheriff until we've confirmed whether he was aware of that, in fact, being given to his deputy. But I am confident that if that is the case, that I don't think there'll be any doubt that there will be a response to that sometime later this evening with I'm Fired Up. And folks, I mean, let's clear your calendar. April 1st.
Yeah,
Let's
and
all clear our calendars.
I'm very curious to see, as far as the list is concerned, and if they do speak, the sheriff does speak to the deputy. I'm very interested to see exactly what they told the deputy as to why these people are on a list. Where did it come from, and why are they on the list, and what does the list represent? Meaning, are these people that had charges filed against them previously? Are these people that previously disrupted meetings? Are these people that have caused any property damage? Are these people in any way, shape, or form uh,
Criminal.
in trouble with the government? Yeah, I mean, otherwise, I can't imagine what he was told or she was told, but hopefully they realized that the list was pretty much useless and just did it to placated the people. Say, yeah, yeah, thanks for the list, and then they didn't give it a second thought. And I would imagine that might be the case, because if AJ should have been on the list, if he wasn't, I'm surprised. But when he walked in, the fact that he was not approached by a sheriff's deputy, by one of the people there, kind of tells me that the deputy really didn't take that list too seriously, at least for now.
Well, what I think happened is that I don't know what precinct reorganization that AJ attended, but I am in Sockesty 3, as is Chad, as is Elizabeth. So we are some of the malcontents that they would absolutely want to prohibit from participating. So it may have just been that they had a deputy come for that particular reorg, knowing that, that's where we would come if we were going to be involved. And so that may have been the only meeting where they had a sheriff's deputy standing by with the list. I don't know that for certain. I don't know if AJ can. It sounds like there wasn't an officer there, because I'm sure the officer would have intervened whenever
Right.
Kelly came out cussing at AJ, and she probably would have told her to calm down. So it may have just been that they wanted to prohibit. Yeah, AJ said he's pretty sure there's no deputy there. So they wanted to make sure that myself, Chad Caton, Elizabeth Caton, that we were not allowed to enter into that particular reorg. Because again, we're all actually, I'm Sockesty 3. I think Chad and Elizabeth are Sockesty 4. But our reorganization meeting would have all occurred together, if you will. I think it was in Surfside, but don't hold me. I'm not certain. So don't hold me to that, because again, I didn't go. So, but we'll find out. We're definitely going to get to the bottom of this story. And if it turns out to be that they had a list of names that they were standing outside, okay, so ours was in Aner, which makes no sense whatsoever. Aner's not even close to any of our precincts. So anyone who's elderly who wanted to participate in the reorganization process probably didn't go, because anyway, it's appalling. I do not understand why they would create a list of names, because it kind of reminds me of what they said that the FBI has been doing, where they find a man and then they look for a crime.
Right.
Not they have a crime
But
and they look for a man. So,
and we always have to keep in mind that if it wasn't for malcontents, this country wouldn't exist.
amen. Yeah, someone put up something the other day and said, was discussing rebellion, and is rebellion not really the wrong thing, and it's just this, that, and the other thing. And I said, well, I'm glad that our founders didn't feel that way. And she said, what do you mean? I said, because they led the rebellion against against England. Did you forget that part of it? Sometimes rebellion is the right thing to do, because I'm pretty sure that if you look at Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, who got cast into the furnace because they rebelled against the king and refused to bow down. That's a form of rebellion. I'm pretty sure that when someone got cast into the lion's den, pretty confident that was a form of rebellion. So there are certainly times when we are actually supposed to rebel against something, that if it violates God's word, if it violates the law, I'm not going to do it. I know when I was in the military, and as well as in law enforcement, if I had been given an unlawful order, I wouldn't have followed it. I would have said, no, I'm not doing that. So, folks, just because someone tells you, someone has some kind of authority, if you will, and they tell you have to do X, Y, and Z, if you know that what they're asking you to do is not lawful, it is your responsibility, is your civic duty to deny that and not go forward. You cannot perpetrate a crime just because someone told you to do it. Ask the
Yeah,
folks who got charged after the Nazis. Okay. Oh, I
yeah,
just followed orders. Yeah. You're going to follow them
and
right to jail.
that's what's behind. We've talked about this. That's what's behind the defund the police movement. Is
Yep.
that They want to put officers in place who don't have any skin in the game when it comes to local policing. They're far more likely to enforce unjust laws if they're national police than they are if they're local police. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's what the intent is. And it's
Yep.
always the intent. It's because if you look at what's going on here at a lot of different levels, the Democrats and a lot of the Republican establishment are looking to take away our rights. Case closed.
Yes. Case closed. And folks, John and I are going to stand with you shoulder to shoulder. We are not going to go gently into that good night. We are going to fight back against this tyranny, and we hope that you'll join us. Stay tuned. We'll let you know as soon as we find out additional information about the list, and we'll get you apprised of that as soon as possible. Thank you for tuning in today. That's going to do it for our show. Any parting shots or thoughts, John?
Well, I certainly hope that I'm on that list. And if not, I'm going to have to work harder.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate you watching. Elizabeth, thank you so much. Joe, thank you very much. AJ, everybody, thank you for watching. God bless, Godspeed. And as always, we'll see you next time, folks.